Welcome to the F Recap channel. Today I will tell you about the 2011 film, In Time. Will Salas lives in a world where people don't age. The human body has been genetically modified to stop developing at 25 years old, but staying young comes at a price. A clock is embedded in each person's arm at birth, displaying how many years, hours, minutes, or seconds they have left to live. The countdown starts at age 25, and from that point, the person only has 1 year left. In Will Salas's world, time has become the currency. Yesterday, a cup of coffee cost 3 minutes. Today, it costs 4. For each day of work, Will is given a certain amount of hours. In the time zone where Will lives, people never have much time, usually no more than a day on their clocks. Will lives with his mother and works at a factory that produces devices used to transfer time. Will's father died when he was 5 years old. He was killed for giving away time to the people in his neighborhood. Will lives in the ghetto, but today is his mother's birthday, and he gives her a bottle of champagne before heading to the factory. After work, Will meets his friend Burrell at a bar where he notices Henry Hamilton, a wealthy man with over 100 years on his clock. Henry is giving away his time freely, which attracts the attention of a gang of thieves known as the Minutemen. They steal time from people by force. Will tries to get Henry out of the bar, but he is too late. Fortis and his gang arrive. Henry asks to go to the bathroom, and Will sneaks him out to hide from the Minutemen. They take refuge in an abandoned factory building. In a conversation with Henry, Will realizes that Henry is exhausted from his endless life and plans to end it by giving all his time to someone else. In the morning, while Will is still asleep, Henry transfers almost all of his time to him and goes to the bridge to watch the sunrise. When his time runs out, Henry dies. Will tries to save him, but is too late. Now with over 100 years of life, Will heads to his friend Burrell's house. There he tells Burrell everything and gives him 10 years of time. However, Burrell drinks himself into oblivion out of joy, and as it later turns out, dies. Will's mother, returning home from work, discovers that the bus fare has increased to 2 hours, but she only has 1.5 hours left. The driver refuses to let her ride without full payment and suggests that she run home to save time. Will waits for her at the bus stop, but when the bus arrives without her, he runs to meet her. Unfortunately, Will does not make it in time to transfer his mother some of his time, and she dies in his arms. The timekeepers find Henry's body in the river. Investigator Raymond Leon, who has worked in law enforcement for over 50 years and knew Will's father, quickly deduces that Henry's time was transferred to Will. Raymond begins tracking Will through security camera footage. Will decides to enter the wealthy time zone to destroy the unfair system and avenge his mother's death. Henry had told him that the rich have more time than they could ever use, enough for everyone to live forever. Will checks into a luxury hotel, spending several years of his life in the process. He catches the attention of Sylvia Weiss, the daughter of time magnate Felipe Weiss. She notices that Will is unlike the other wealthy people. Will, who used to be quite good at poker, heads to a casino and wins a large amount of time from Felipe Weiss. After the game, Felipe introduces Will to his daughter Sylvia. With the time he won, Will buys a sports convertible and heads to a party at the Weiss mansion. There he is only interested in Sylvia. The girl confides in him that it's difficult for her to live in a world where she is constantly surrounded by security, and she longs for freedom and adventure. Will suggests they go for a swim in the ocean. When Will and Sylvia return, they are apprehended by the timekeepers. They take almost all of Will's time, leaving him with just 2 hours to complete the paperwork. They don't believe that Henry willingly gave his time to Will. Will manages to escape, taking Sylvia as a hostage. Will escapes with Sylvia, and a chase begins. Raymond Leon pursues them, but Will manages to evade him. They get into a car accident, and when Will and Sylvia regain consciousness, they are found by the Minutemen. Fortis, the leader of the gang, nearly drains all of Sylvia's time, but doesn't get a chance to rob Will as police sirens are heard in the distance, forcing the gang to flee. Will and Sylvia realize they are running out of time. They try to borrow some from Burrell, only to discover that he has drunk himself to death after receiving 10 years. Burrell's wife blames Will for her husband's death and drives him away. In desperation, Will pawns Sylvia's earrings, receiving a couple of days in return. At gunpoint, Will forces Sylvia to call her father and demand that he transfer 1,000 years to a charity account by the next morning, promising to release her afterward. They head to Will's apartment, where they spend time together and grow closer. However, in the morning it turns out that the transfer was not made. Will convinces Sylvia to call her father to have him pick her up from the ghetto. But at that moment, Raymond arrives, having traced the call. He points his gun at Will, but Sylvia shoots Raymond, wounding him in the shoulder. Will gives Raymond a bit of time to return to his people, and together with Sylvia, they steal his car. Then they stop a rich woman's car on the highway and rob her to get more time. After that, Will and Sylvia are declared fugitives, and the news reports that they are working together. Will teaches Sylvia how to shoot, and the two of them rob a time bank. They distribute the stolen time to the residents of the ghetto. The timekeepers track them down to a cheap hotel, but Will notices the police sirens and escapes with Sylvia. Raymond continues to pursue them and nearly catches them, but a passing bus saves the fugitives. Realizing that running is becoming too risky, Will and Sylvia check into another hotel, buying all the rooms to avoid attracting attention. However, they are noticed by another guest who speaks with the hotel clerk. This person happens to have seen them in the ghetto. He informs Fortis about Will and Sylvia's location. That night, Fortis's gang storms into their hotel room. Fortis explains that he's unhappy because Will's actions have brought too many timekeepers into the ghetto, making it difficult for the gang to rob people freely. He challenges Will to a match of time wrestling, a form of combat where two people try to steal each other's time. Will agrees, and at first Fortis almost wins. But at the last moment, Will turns the tide and takes all of Fortis's time for himself. Fortis dies, and his gang members, caught off guard by what just happened, become easy targets for Will, who uses a hidden gun to kill them. The timekeepers find the gang's bodies in the hotel, but by then, Will and Sylvia are already on the run again. Will realizes that all their efforts to disrupt the system have been in vain. The banks raised interest rates to recover the lost time. Sylvia persuades him to keep fighting, and they decide that they need at least 1,000,000 years to truly break the system. Sylvia knows where to get that time. She returns to her father, who is guarded by a group of bodyguards. While she talks to Philippe, Will sneaks up on him and, threatening him with a gun, forces him into his private quarters. They break into his safe, where they find a device holding 1,000,000 years. Will and Sylvia take it and flee to the ghetto. Will hands the device with 1,000,000 years to a familiar little girl who takes it to a charity organization. The charity begins distributing the time to the residents of the ghetto. The timekeepers notice the sharp changes in the time zones after the theft of the 1,000,000 years and try to stop the fugitives, but their efforts are in vain. Will and Sylvia manage to break through back into their time zone, where they continue hiding. Meanwhile, Raymond relentlessly pursues them but finds himself in danger. His own time is nearly up. He eventually catches up to Will and Sylvia, but in the chaos of the chase, they slip away once more. Raymond becomes so consumed by the pursuit that he forgets to collect his daily salary. He makes one last attempt to stop them, but it's too late. His time runs out, and he dies on the spot, unable to stop the fugitives. Will and Sylvia are also running out of time. Realizing he has one last chance to save them, Will races to Raymond's car to take his remaining daily time. Sylvia follows him, understanding that this is their only shot at survival. Will reaches the car first, manages to take some time, and at the very last moment transfers it to Sylvia, saving her in a tense and critical moment when they were both on the verge of death. The residents of the ghetto, having received a huge amount of time, begin crossing time zones and heading to the wealthy districts. The remaining timekeepers realize that in the new chaos, their service has lost all meaning, and it needs to be disbanded. Will and Sylvia decide not to stop at what they've achieved and plan to continue fighting against the system. In the end, they head toward a new time bank, intending to steal more time and give it to those in need. That's all for today. Subscribe and like if you want more videos like this.